Yes, I'll have the crab, please. You're just getting water and bread? What is wrong with you? Alright, I guess that's fair. It is kinda fancy bread, but it's nothing special. Actually, I wanted to ask you, how are you even paying for all this? A coupon on a fancy place like this? Let me take a look at that. Wilson, you idiot, this is not a coupon for this place. Yeah, this is a coupon for Chuck E. Cheese, man! We can't use that here. No, there's no trading. Dude, what are you Oh, yes. The crab, yes. Thank you. You can just... yeah, the crab is mine. Thank you. Alright, okay. I guess we're gonna deal with it once we eat. Alright? My crab, it's kind of metallic, I guess. Is it alive? Whoa, 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 no, 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 no. Here, I'm gonna ask for the waiter. I think he made a mistake. Alright, let's not make any rash decisions here. Okay, can at least we eat the bread and then we do it once I get back? Alright, waiter, another order of bread. Dang, can't believe I'm having to make this stupid video because... you're still here. Alright, I guess I had to talk about you eventually, so I guess let's get started. Hello telespectators, today we're gonna be talking about another badnik. This time around, it's Crabmeat. So first and foremost, one of the most important aspects of any badnik is their design. Beginning with Crabmeat's name, yes, it indeed is a crab. But it doesn't have any meat, unless there's a secret we don't know about yet. Nah, surely it's fine. Crabmeat, in reality, is just a silly name that the badnik has, and it doesn't really have any implication on its concept other than crab. Visually though, Crabmeat, as expected, follows the design and visuals of a crab, but there are several interesting things on its design iterations. In the first Sonic game, Crabmeat has several holes and many flexible limbs. We can see its flexibility thanks to its eye movements and big gaping holes around these limbs, which seems to suggest that Crabmeat has a wide range of movements with its limbs. Its legs seem to be similar in some way, but they don't have the same type of holes that help with movement that can be seen in the limbs. I would personally say that its legs are like this in this design, maybe because Crabmeat's legs are heavier, or maybe to create more stability to its whole body. I can't really tell in this case. Another aspect of its design that should be mentioned is in this middle compartment. The way I see it is that this middle compartment is the main way Crabmeat generates power from the animal contained inside of it. Or maybe it just serves as a compartment to serve as an exhaust of the heat inside of its body, and the other holes are solely made for the limbs. However, let us not forget to talk about Crabmeat's big claws. Although this design doesn't really show it attacking with its claws, I wouldn't doubt that it can. But the main thing of these claws is that it's capable of shooting projectiles. At least in this version, it seems like Crabmeat shoots these energy projectiles that follow an arc. Some other iterations of it do show some different projectiles though, so it is a little bit uncertain whether these projectiles are actually made out of some energy or not. This is not the end of Crabmeat's design though. There are other versions of it that are pretty different, such as the modern version of Crabmeat. Compared to the original Crabmeat, this modern version is much bulkier, most likely due to the extra size of its claws, which is one of the first versions we see that does not shoot some sort of energy projectile. It actually shoots these long missiles from its hands. Though different from the original Crabmeat, these missiles are not seen flying in an arc, but rather flying straight ahead, Many of Eggman's modern designs tend to have bulkier designs, so this could be either from evolution of Eggman's technology, or maybe for a grander purpose, like resisting more attacks, although it does still get destroyed fairly easily. Speaking of bulky, Crabmeat from Sonic Boom seems to have a mix of mobility and bulkiness. It doesn't shoot projectiles like its past versions, but rather it seems to focus on its claws, sharp legs, along with it having extra spikes on its shell. The Boom Crabmeat is pretty much a normal crab, rather than a Crabmeat. The less direct Crabmeat version there is to talk about is the Crabmeat from Sonic Lost World, which, once again, nostalgia is hitting hard on Eggman, but this Crabmeat seems to just be a direct evolution of the original Crabmeat. It still has same flexible arm movement and also the holes, although this time they seem to be more covered to make it more defensive, which is definitely effective, because different from other Crabmeats, a normal attack from Sonic won't be enough. Rather, Sonic has to first kick it in order to flip it on its backside, which then makes it vulnerable to be destroyed. This further showcases how perhaps Crabmeat's bottom side is where its energy is generated and must be lighter for maximum efficiency. Or perhaps it's just very sensitive. Another very important thing to talk about Crabmeat is that it does not shoot. Or maybe we don't see it. What we instead see this Crabmeat doing is that it punches its targets. It does explain why we see its claws being sealed tighter than the original Crabmeat, and maybe that's what it was made for. Maybe it really isn't capable of shooting projectiles, but there's not really any way to confirm or deny this. Alright, I've been dying to say it, but Crabmeat is completely useless! Wait! Let me explain. Ow! Remember in its design section when I talked about Crabmeat's projectile arc? I just want to bring up to attention that there is no way that anyone is going to get hit by this. It's slow, predictable, and takes a long time for it even to be shot out. And although its modern version also has the same problem of the projectile being slow, it shoots a missile. Because of this, I want to remove combat from Crabmeat's list of purposes. Maybe Booms and Worlds Crabmeat can be used for combat, but Crabmeat overall does not have the power, speed, or defenses for this. And that's why I want to bring up the possibility that maybe Crabmeat was made for destruction and a bit of resource gathering. The main reason for this comes from the zones Crabmeat can be found in. Green Hill Zone is littered with totems, rocks, bridges, and destroyable walls. These several objects and hazards of Green Hill Zone have to be destroyed eventually. We see one possible machine of such endeavors, which is Eggman's Eggmobile, which is equipped with its iconic wrecking ball. However, the singular machine is not really efficient enough for Eggman's plan to expand and conquer. And this is where Crabmeat's come into play, which it has some really good mobility and flexibility in order to deal with these many areas of Green Hill Zone. And its projectile arc is actually really good for destroying things in the zone. It might not be good for combat, but for destruction it works well because it's very multi-purpose. Its modern design and Sonic Generation also suggests this idea even further, because what else is better for destruction than some big ol' explosives? Stop! Alright, continuing on. These two instances and the analysis of Green Hill Zone are very important for Crabmeat's usage, because it really is no good at all for combat. Although again, Booms and Worlds version of Crabmeat could actually be made for combat. There is an argument to be made for Worlds Crabmeat that it can fit with the idea of gathering resources and maybe destroying rocks, but I'm not too convinced because of the area it's found in, which doesn't show anything that we can see like Green Hill Zone. Alright, with Crabmeat's fully covered, time to talk about its other cousins. Beginning with Taraba. Oh hey Tarban, how are you? I have no idea what you are saying, but I feel like it's very interesting. Stop interrupting! Terraban really is just Crabmeat, but French. The only big difference in its design that is notable is the fact that it has 6 legs instead of 4. But another funny thing on its design is that in the manual, he just looks like a happy boy. Look at him, look how happy he is. Yeah, go Terraban, you can do it. Yeah. Use-wise, however, Terraban does probably follow the same idea of Crabmeat. It's found in a variety of zones throughout the game, 2 of which kind of make sense for destruction, but because of how limited the game gear is, it's kind of hard to really tell what it would be made to destroy. Next up we have Gami Gami, and Gami Gami's name is a little fun play on words. In Japanese, the word for crab can be either kani or gani, which Gami is kinda close, I guess? Gani, Gami, Gani, Gami, you see it? Hopefully it doesn't mean anything else. Names aside though, Gami Gami looks pretty similar to Crabmeat. It does lack the highly flexible limbs from Crabmeat though. And instead of it looking very round, it takes more of a rectangular shape for its body. Overall, Gami Gami is just a different looking Crabmeat. However, compared to Crabmeat, Gami Gami is much faster, both in shooting and in moving to places. There are many possible reasons for this, but I personally like to think that maybe it's due to the fact that Gami Gami has less complicated limbs. It becomes either much lighter or it gets to focus more on movement and shooting projectiles. As stated before, Gami Gami is overall much faster than Crabmeat. And while it still could be used for destruction, I think Gami Gami is a unique exception to this line of badniks because I generally think that he's made for combat. The areas Crabmeat is found in are way more strategical for combat rather than destruction, and although their shots don't go as far, they fall so much quicker that it genuinely can be a bit difficult to get around them. Next up we have Missile Gani Gani, which is found in Sonic Lost World. It's not a version of Gami Gami, it's actually a version of Crabmeat. Missile Gani Gani's name is a more direct play on words of the word for the crab in Japanese. This time much more obvious since it's just a crab twice for the name. But strangely enough, because of its different name from Crabmeat, this is considered a different badnik that is on the same line of Crabmeats, with the only difference in its design being the fact that it has very long claws that shoot missiles. This is a very strange decision because comparing to World's Crabmeat, Missile Gani Gani acts much more like a Crabmeat than the actual Crabmeat in this game. But oh well, it is a very weird decision for the devs to classify this as technically a different badnik than Crabmeat, but oh well. An important thing to note about Gani Gani's purpose in World is that Gani Gani is only found after the badniks are taken over by the Deadly Six. This is very relevant information because the Deadly Six don't really think of conquering like Eggman does. Rather, they think of only destruction and having all things go their way. This is very obvious in Sonic Lost World too. Right when Eggman begins to suck the energy from the world below, he makes sure that he doesn't overdo it, or else that would jeopardize even him. The Deadly Six, though, really don't care about it at all. Alright, backstory aside, Missile Gani Gani's location is
Wow! This guy sucks balls at Sonic the Hedgehog. It makes me want to remove all the air inside my body just so I stop having to watch him.
Wait, who interrupted me? Who's saying that? Wilson?
Yeah, you brick eater. I changed my voice just so I can better make fun of you.
Okay, but you better change that voice. I don't think people are gonna like us using that voice here very much.
You think I care about the fans? At this point, I just care about the horrible gameplay you are showcasing in the back. You weren't even rolling fast at the start of the gameplay.
Alright, if you think this level is so easy, how about you give it a try then, huh?
Let me show you how it's done. You take the controller and start playing, and instead of playing like this sad excuse of an OC, you play like the incredible and bigger than average red ball.
Wow, that was weird. Anyways, it can be either found in Final Zone of the game, or it can be found in one of the snow zones. This is where the backstory of World becomes interesting though, because if they were moved around from somewhere, They could still have been made for demolition and such, but if the place they are in right now is the place they are meant to be in, they're probably made for combat with a tad of destruction. In the snow zone, these badniks are the only ones able to hit Sonic from inside the snowball. And considering the snowball is also able to hit these weird Yeti guys, now the Missile Ganigani was maybe meant to drive back these Yetis from Eggman's bases. With that said, yeah, Missile Ganigani is just a very basic badnik that is very comparable to Crabmeat.
Seaside Dream, giant enemy crab. Why am I not Wait, is that a mustache?
Dr. Crabulous is an interesting situation because it only exists within a dream. At least if I understood Sonic Dream Team lore correctly. This is an explanation as to why Crabulous has a very wacky design and seemingly impossible abilities compared to any other badnik. But alright, what makes Crabulous' design so special? First things first, a majority of its body parts are made out of balloons. And if I counted correctly, it has 3 parts of its body that supplies air to these balloons. Another important thing to note about its design is its mustache and nose, but I'll talk more about it a little bit later. As for abilities, things become a bit more interesting. Crabulous is capable of slamming the ground with either its body or claws in order to create shockwaves. It is capable of amazing feats in movement too. And let's not forget the fact that it's able to completely decrease its size. Now for an explanation as to why it can do these things, well, it doesn't matter because it's all a dream. And in reality, Dr. Crabulous is just a silly little boss, and there's not much to it. However, its purpose is a very interesting one, and that it's not obvious at first. Dr. Crabulous is a badnik that was made in order for Eggman to test out the capabilities of his creations in this dream world. I mean, look at its design and name. It has a nose and mustache of Eggman, and Crabulous is a play on words between crab and fabulous. And of course it's gonna be a fabulous crab with Eggman's mustache. I mean, look at how much better Wilson looks with Eggman's mustache! Just stick with it for a while longer, bud. Alright, onto an interesting section of the video. These other badniks are not really badniks in the Crabmeat category, however they do have some similarities, which, yeah, they're just crabs. Beginning with Shellcracker. Shellcracker is an interesting badnik. Name-wise, it probably is just because it sounds cool. There might be a reasoning behind the name, but honestly, yeah, it just sounds sick. Its design though is very interesting. It has very similar build to Crabmeat, but it's much bulkier. And it has a ratio of claw size similar to your friend that spent 50 minutes in the bathroom with their phone. It also has a Sonic the Hedgehog 4 design, which is pretty similar. Only difference really is the different coloration on its claw. In Sonic 2, Shellcracker is found at Metropolis Zone, a very interesting zone since it's called Eggman's Capital in Sonic 2's manual. So, this settles it then, right? Shellcracker is made as a defense mechanism. But then that's where I want to bring up another possibility. And that is that maybe Shellcracker is a flawed Eggman design. When in-game, Shellcracker is a simple badnik that simply launches its huge claw at Sonic or Tails. It makes sense for a 2D game, but if we start thinking in 3D perspective, this badnik is a bit weak in comparison to other badniks. This is why I want to bring up the possibility that maybe Shellcracker is still made for demolition, or that it's a badnik that Eggman is still in the process of developing. This is where gameplay and lore can kind of clash with each other, because my theory follows more in the sense of both Asterion and Slicer for it to work. And that is because they are simply flawed badniks that don't work like they should. Asterion just blows up and is not really a threat, and Slicer's boomerang doesn't even work in Sonic 2. Shellcracker could be one of these, or it could be a badnik that is maybe made for destruction of flawed badnik designs. Honestly, I think I might be stretching Shellcracker a bit too far, but it really is a very mysterious badnik in the sense that it's not really clear what it is for. Sadly, I don't have Sonic 4, so I can't really check what it's used for. And no one is gonna convince me to buy that game unless it's on a $1 sale. That game sucks! Next up, there's Rapid Crab, and honestly, Rapid Crab is not really a badnik categorized as a crab meat. However, again, it's a crab, and I don't really know where to put it. Its design, though, is very similar to that of a Gummy Gummy, but there are some differences, with the first most notable being its claws. Instead of putting a big projectile compartment, these claws are sharp and much thinner, and that is because Rapid Crab uses these claws for stabbing rather than shooting projectiles. It doesn't shoot any projectiles at all, actually, and that's why it's not fully categorized as a crab meat. Rapid Crab is found mainly in cave systems, most notable being the Coral Cave Zone. Gameplay-wise though, Rapid Crab really is just an enemy that makes so you have to be careful when trying to attack it, but in theory, Rapid Crab could really well be used for resource collecting, especially if we think of how effective its claws can be for stabbing and hitting rocks for materials. And once again, another badnik from Sonic X-treme, and as expected of Sonic X-treme, we can't really tell what this badnik would be used for. We can sure speculate and talk about its design. First thing to talk about Crab is that it's based on a hermit crab, which leads directly into the most eye-catching part of the badnik, its shell. Crab's shell has a very important design aspect, which is the fact that it swirls, possibly functioning as a drill that it could be used to dig on the ice of Crystal Zone. We can also assume that this shaft section of its design is used for rotating this drill shell, but on the flip side, this could be a drill shell that is launched off of it, which would mean that this would be a badnik from the Turbo Spiker line. But in all honesty, this badnik is probably not a crab meat at all, but because it's a crab, and it's from Sonic X-treme, I feel like I had to at least mention it. Honestly, of all possible badniks that Eggman could make, Crabmeat is one of the badniks that most got me by surprise when I first saw it in the Sonic 3 movie trailers. It does, however, look really cool. Cooler than any other Crabmeat design in this list, in my opinion. Enough of that though. One of the first things we must talk about Crabmeat's movie design is the fact that it's much bigger than many of the Crabmeats in this list. And that is because Crabmeat in the movie doubles as a mobile home. But other than that, the only other notable thing about its design are its claws, which are used much more for gripping things rather than anything else. And the fact it has 6 legs. Crabmeats usually only have 4 legs. This is probably because it's way heavier. Man, I really have to get a job. And finally, but not least, we have the Death Crab. And as the name of the Death Crab implies, this is a Death Egg robot version of Crabmeat. An enormous version of a crab that destroys anything in its path. Well, actually, scratch that, because Death Crab looks nothing like a Crabmeat. The Death Crab is enormous. It can't be understated how big it is. Another aspect of its design that is very important to note is also its long legs that are full of spikes in the front. In-game, it uses them for destroying obstacles and also being used as a basic Mario thwomps in the level. But although it has huge legs, it traded off its arms and pincers for these itty-bitty arms. Another part of its design that is important to note is how sturdy it is. In-game, it seems very sturdy, but a simple tango in its legs ended up completely destroying it in the end. So, it's not really too clear how sturdy it is. But to be fair, it did destroy a lot of things prior in the fight, so maybe it got weaker than it usually is. As stated before, Crabmeat uses its enormous size to destroy obstacles in Green Hill, and it's quite efficient at it too. And honestly, that's it. Its only real purpose is destruction, both for combat and utility. I will admit that this is a strange creation considering the Death Eggs throughout Forces, but maybe the Death Egg robots are not as efficient in Green Hill because of the amount of sand that can be found in this place. So they most likely sink in the sand when trying to go there, but thanks to Death Crab's long legs and overall speed, it can easily maneuver either in the sand or in the better grounding. Alright, and that's it. That's all of the crab meats in one video. And man, you know, I made this video a little bit slow, but you know, I didn't know what to make of crab meat. It was a little bit difficult to really analyze it, and it's only really on Sonic Generations where it kind of clicked on my mind that it could be made for destruction. Honestly, I might be theorizing a little bit too much here and drawing too much on gameplay and actual lore, but you know, I'm very happy in saying that it's made for destruction. I mean, are you happy? Alright, yeah, that's good. Can you put that down finally, please? Yeah, just put it on the floor. Yeah. Okay. You piece of crap, you worthless piece of trash! I'm gonna get you! You never point a gun at me ever again! You hear that? Yeah, that's right! I never wanna see you do that!